Hey everyone, welcome to Wild Breakaway with Wes Walls. I'm Audra Martin. For the first time in 7 years, Game 82 was the end of the road for the Minnesota Wild, and tonight taking on the Dallas Stars, who are still fighting to lock in the first wildcard spot in the Western Conference. It was a 3-0 shutout loss for Minnesota, so they end the season with back-to-back goose eggs on the boards. Yeah. Tough way to end.
Yeah, for sure it was. And, Alex Stalock was by far the Minnesota Wild best player tonight. Had 44 shots, made 41 saves. And I said in the pregame show, sometimes, the Wild are not used to being in this situation. Sometimes it's really, really difficult to get up for games. And you could see the Minnesota Wild did not skate as hard as the Dallas Stars, and they had the good portion of the play. But as you mentioned, they hadn't scored in the last two games. It was really just a microcosm of the season for the Minnesota Wild. I believe they were shut out 11 times or so, and 10 times maybe in the last 45 games or whatever when Matt Dumba went down. December 15th, the Minnesota Wild, for whatever reason, I know Matt's a big part of the offense for this team, not just scoring goals, but getting the puck up the ice, but really had a difficult time scoring goals. We're getting chances a lot of times and out-chancing teams, especially here at home, but goalies would come in here and steal games, so difficult season for the Minnesota Wild that has finally come to an end.
Yeah, and so it's going to be an interesting offseason. One final look at your final stats of the season. The Wild doubled up on shots, 44-22. It's the third worst shot differential of a game this season for Minnesota. Can't take advantage of either chances with a man advantage. And all in all, just a tough loss, tough way to end, and really just not the way that anybody, especially the head coach, would have seen this season going.
It was a grind from day one. I mean, I thought we lost our first game, and it was, when we won by 1 or 2 goals. And so every game that we won, we were grinding it out type thing, and we'd get really good goaltending. So, I mean, it's nothing's come easy to this team this year.
So with hockey season officially over, we can shift focus to baseball season. And the good news there is that the Twins are off to a great start, 5-2 so far. Today, coming off their best game of the season, a win over a very good Philadelphia Phillies team that includes Bryce Harper. So far, they've kept him relatively quiet, which is not an easy thing to do. And they'll try to do so tomorrow in the rubber match. But when it comes to hockey, now it's just time to look forward to the offseason for the Minnesota Wild. They have money to spend, which is great. We've got the draft coming up. And as we saw this season, already some young guys on this roster who certainly have proven that they deserve to be a part of the future.
Yeah, for Minnesota Wild fans, this is like a new era for the Minnesota Wild with all the 21, 22, 23-year-old kids we got coming in. Sturm, Fiala, Donato. Eriksson X game went to another level when Mikko went down. Jordan Greenway is just scratching the surface. I don't even think he understands how good he can be. When he finally figures that out, he's got a chance to be a 20 to 30 goal guy. Luke Cunnin got a chance to play some heavy minutes. If he gets a spot on the second unit on the power play, I think he could get 20 goals. As you mentioned, one of the things that excites me the most going into next season is the fact that right now we have, I think, between $12 and $14 million to spend. It's probably going to be closer to $12 million after we get our restricted free agent signed. We haven't had that kind of money to spend, and how that money is spent this summer is going to be very, very important for any success that the Minnesota Wild is going to get here over the next few years. Spending that money very, very wisely. The Minnesota Wild can bring in $2, $4 or $5 million players. It makes this team look a lot different on paper, especially. So tough year for the Wild. Had a difficult time scoring, but at the end of the day, listen, like I mentioned in the post game, nobody died. Okay, the Minnesota Wild just need to get a little bit better, score some more goals, and have a good summer of training, and we'll take another run at them next year.
Yep, use this as motivation for next year. No one wants to feel this again, so hopefully this will be just the one time that we have to deal with no trip to the postseason for the Minnesota Wild. So we want to thank all of you for joining us all season long on Fox Sports North and here on Wild Breakaway. One final time for Wes Walls. I'm Audra Martin. We'll see you all next season.